Hello. Welcome to the BAC channel, Big American channel. Um, Today is June 29th, 1945, a week after the war has ended. It was considered one of the major bloody battles in World War II. It was a part of Operation Iceberg, a plan to take over Japan through island hopping the Reich Islands. When American troops landed on Okinawa, Allied and Soviet troops had already taken most of Europe from the Nazis. The Nazis are also allied with Japan, so as they were both losing land, they were both losing the battle. And Nazis were weeks away from surrendering by Germany, or surrendering Germany. Okinawa was a 466 square mile island filled with dense foliage, hills, and trees, making it a perfect place for Japan's last stand. So basically, the island was filled of lots of trees, rough lands. So it'd be easier. It's way easier to stay on the island and defend on it than for Americans to take hold of the land, because it's a lot harder to get on there. If Okinawa since Okinawa fell and it's their last stand, Japan would also fall in the war. On April 1st, the 5th Fleet, largest bombardment in history to support landing troops to weaken Japan's defense. The morale was actually really low amongst most U.S. soldiers. A beach standing massacre worse than D-Day. It was a really bloody battle, actually. It was worse than D-Day, and D-Day was actually one of the worst battles ever. But they reached Okinawa, and the mass attack was almost pointless, so there were no Japanese soldiers waiting for Americans. Yeah. There was almost 2,000 suicide attacks from Japan that damaged more than 260 ships. Japanese soldiers actually died for their country, because they seem to be strong if they died for their people. Because if you gave up, and surrendering in Japan was not considered well, because surrendering seemed weak. So Japanese suffered 1,100,000 deaths, and 2 generals actually committed suicide because they were not going to surrender because it was unhonorable. From the fierce fighting, Okinawa and kamikaze suicide bombers showed no signs of surrendering. The U.S. had to invade Japan, but they would cause extreme casualties, and Japanese civilians would be caught in the middle of fighting. Alright, I think this is really sad. Especially for the soldiers, because the government in Japan back then, now, is really brainwashing their people. They really want to make their country seem strong, and they want as much land as possible. They want to seem as one of the strong people. They want to be like Germany. Germany wants power and land to be one of the big, strong countries in the European and other countries. And I here with me, Gian. What is your opinion on this?
Thank you, Aaron, for your statement on this battle. I also have additional information about the Battle of Okinawa. So, what the American soldiers didn't know was that Lieutenant General Mitsuru Yoshijima instructed the Japanese troops to watch and wait for the U.S. troops to move more inland for a surprise attack from all sides. A triangle of defensive positions known as the Shuri Defense Line. The battleship Yamato was sent to launch a surprise attack on the American soldiers pinned down by the Shuri Defense Line on April 7th. Allied submarines were able to spot the battleship, which was sent as a surprise attack before it was too late, and alerted the fleet, who sank the ship with an air attack. The Americans took over Shuri Castle with many casualties on both sides, and the Japanese retreated to the south coast of Okinawa to make a last stand, which Okinawa was known as, a worse battle than the Battle of Normandy. In Japan's last defense, they unleashed kamikaze pilots on the American soldiers. For those who don't know, kamikaze pilots are basically like suicide bombers, except they're in a plane. And many Japanese soldiers committed suicide because they believed that the Americans would take no prisoners. So that means that they would rather commit suicide than get killed by Americans. And what I have to say about this is that this is clearly worse than the Battle of Normandy. My condolences go out to the families of the soldiers who died during this battle. That'll be the end of our podcast. Thanks for listening, and tune in next time for another episode of the Big American Channel.
Don't forget to leave a like on this video and hit that follow button.